Rock solid.
Malphite is a champion with a very strong engage. He can use his ultimate to dive the enemy backline or quickly peel for his allies. He has a built-in attack speed slow from his E ability, and when combined with the Frozen Heart, he can really reduce the damage of the AD carry. He's a very strong champion against high physical damage teams because of his built-in armor scaling, and he is an AP top laner. He's a great way of adding some magic damage into your team comp while still having a strong tank. Although he is a pretty strong champion in the meta currently, he does have his cons. Now first, he's not going to be that great against high magic damage teams because he does want to build armor because of the scaling in his kit. If he's forced to build a lot of magic resist, he's not going to be at his full potential. Then of course, although your ultimate is incredibly strong, it is flashable and it is a skill shot. If the enemy can react quickly enough, they can jump out of your ultimate, and then you're kind of just stuck in the backline and there's not much you can do. For your default rune page, you want to go for Sorcery and Resolve and get Arcane Comet as your keystone. Since your Q ability does slow the enemy champion, they'll pretty much be guaranteed to get hit by your Arcane Comet, so it's really strong in trades. We then get a bit of extra damage and some extra mana regeneration from the rest of Sorcery, and then go into Resolve to get some extra tankiness and some regeneration. For a second option, you have Resolve and Sorcery, getting Grasp of the Undying as your keystone. If you think you're going to have longer trades and you want a bit of extra sustain, Grasp of the Undying may be the better option. Grab some nice tanky bonuses from the Resolve side and then go into Sorcery and get some mana regeneration, as well as some ability haste. For your summoner spells, first up you always want to grab Flash. It's just a great default summoner spell. It's great to save you if you get caught in a bad position, and you can always combine it with your ultimate to engage from a really long distance. For your second summoner spell, you have two different options, and first up is Teleport. Teleport is a pretty default summoner spell for a top laner. You can be split pushing around the map and still make it to team fights and objectives. It's also great in the lane phase because if you do get shoved out, you can quickly get back. If you instead want a bit of added kill pressure, you could go for Ignite. If you're very comfortable in your matchup and you really want to try to snowball, Ignite can sometimes be the difference. Now let's kick off your abilities by looking at your passive, Granite Shield. There's not too much to say here. It is an incredibly strong passive that gives you a shield based on 10% of your maximum health every 8 to 6 seconds based on your level. The main strength is definitely going to come from the lane phase. You want to try to get this up as much as you can while you're going in for trades so you're not actually taking any damage onto your health pool. In team fights, however, this isn't really going to have the opportunity to refresh too often. It's just going to give you some extra durability. Next is your Q ability, Seismic Shard. When activated, you'll shoot a shard at the target enemy that deals magic damage and slows them for 3 seconds. This at the same time will give Malphite bonus movement speed based on that slow duration. This will be your main trading tool throughout the lane phase. You want to poke the enemy champion with it over and over again. It's also going to be a great tool throughout the game to help you get on top of targets from the slow and movement speed that you gain. Next is W, Thunderclap. This gives Malphite a lot, but first it gives him bonus armor, which is tripled when he does have the passive shield activated. When he activates this ability, he'll get 50 bonus range and deal bonus physical damage, which also splashes. This is one of the abilities that scales off of his bonus armor, so it's one of those reasons when we want to pick him into a high physical damage team. When you're building armor, you're not only getting tankier, but you're also dealing increased damage. Use this ability when you're on top of the enemy champion to add some additional damage or to just push minion waves quicker. Next, your E ability, Ground Slam. When activated, you'll slam the ground beneath you, dealing magic damage and crippling enemies for 3 seconds. The cripple here is reduced attack speed on the enemy champions, and this is between 30 and 50%, which is pretty significant. This yet again also has some pretty decent armor scaling as well, so against those high physical damage teams you're going to have a lot of armor, and this ability can hit pretty hard. In team fights, make sure you try to hit this on enemy champions that do rely on attack speed. It will significantly reduce their damage. Combine it with your W for fast AoE clear when you need it throughout the lane phase. And that finally brings us to our ultimate, Unstoppable Force. When activated, you'll dash to the target location, dealing magic damage and knocking them up for 1.5 seconds. It has a range of 1000, so it's a great way to get onto the enemy backline from a pretty decent distance. That's pretty much how you'll want to use the ability. Either dive the enemy backline and get on those squishier champions, or use it to peel for your own carries if you think they'll win the fight instead. Keep in mind that this can also go over walls, so you can engage from really weird directions, and you can always use it as a defensive as well and jump away if you get caught. For your skill order, you first want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then for its strength and trades, you want to max your Q ability and follow it with your E for the AoE damage. Then finally focus on maxing your W ability last, but get a point in it at level 4, it's great at level 1. For your first combo, we have your trading combo. First, use your Q for the movement speed and slow, auto attack, W, auto attack, and E, auto attack. You're basically just using your Q to get on top of the enemy champion and then weaving in your other abilities with auto attacks. If you're already on top of the enemy champion, use your Q ability later on to stay with them. For your second combo, we have your all-in with ultimate. Jump on top of the enemy with your ultimate and then auto attack, W, auto attack, E, auto attack, Q. If the enemy champion does flash or use a dash ability, you can always use the Q earlier on in the combo to help slow and give you movement speed to get back on top of them for the rest of the combo. For an even longer engage, if you do need it, you can always use flash as well before the ultimate to close a gap. For your matchups, it's generally pretty simple. If it's something you can stack a lot of armor against, Malphite is generally strong against it. There are some very specific scenarios where champions that deal true damage may be strong against him, but against AD, just build armor and win the lane. All the champions listed here are primarily physical damage. Yes, there's a little bit of true damage here and there as well, but generally it's all physical. Vayne and Jace are a little annoying early on, but just build some armor and level 6, jump on top of them, and delete them. For some of your harder matchups, we have the tankier AP champions. These are champions that A, deal magic damage so you can't really build armor against them, and B, are tanky enough where you can't all-in them with your ultimate. You'll pretty much have to get some magic resist against these champions, and you're going to be weaker in the game because you're not going to have that extra scaling on your W and your E. In the early lane phase, you want to poke the enemy champion as much as you can with your Q ability. Try to make sure the shield you get from your passive is refreshed every time you go in for a trade to make sure you come out on top. When you feel like you're stronger than the enemy champion, you can always get on top of them after you get the Q's movement speed as well and use your W and your E. If you ever need to shove the minion wave really quickly because the enemy backed, make sure you activate your W and use your E for all of its AoE damage. Just be careful if you're shoving though, keep your lane warded. In the mid and late game, you should either be trying to delete the enemy top laner every time you have your ultimate, or you should be roaming around the map looking for team fights or helping with objectives. Your ultimate is an incredibly strong tool, so you should try to maximize how often you're using it throughout the game. If you do have teleport and you're stronger than the enemy top laner, generally you'll want to try to shove side lanes and join team fights when you can with your teleport. It's a great way to put a lot of pressure on the enemy team, but still allow yourself to help your teammates when you need to. For your item build, you first want to start with a Doran's Ring and a health potion. These are great because it gives you a little bit of extra damage and also gives you good sustain and mana. Against those really hard matchups where you feel like your passive shield won't be enough and you'll actually be taking health damage, you can always get a Doran's Shield as well for some added regeneration. Either way, after that you want to go into your core build and get a Sunfire Cape, Thornmail, and Frozen Heart. Now keep in mind of course that this isn't a very perfect world where there's a lot of physical damage on the enemy team. You may be forced to get some magic resist as well and replace one of these items. If that is the case, I would still generally get the Sunfire Cape and then move into magic resist afterwards. Then after those core items you want to get some boots of course, and you want to get either plated steel caps or merc treads. As a default you want to get plated steel caps, but if there is a lot of magic damage and crowd controls on the enemy team, you'll probably want to go for mercs. Then after your core build and boots, you want to move on to your item pool, and first we have the K-neck Rookern. This is a pretty strong item because it does give you a lot of magic resist if you do need it, and you also get a magic shield which works just like your passive. Jak'Sho is going to be a great item as well because it gives you all sorts of defensive itemization that gets stronger as the team fight grows on. If you need even more magic resist, you could get a Spirit Visage, or if you want to add some damage and get a lower cooldown ultimate, you could get Malignance. And finally, if you are lucky enough to be against a full physical damage team, you could always get a Randuin's to cut down on critical damage. He's honestly a champion that can itemize in all sorts of different ways. Pretty much just build whatever defensive items you think are going to be the most beneficial for the situation you're in. And that is everything I've got for top lane Malphite. Thank you guys very much for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.